Well, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Just Jump In live stream. I hope everybody is having a fantastic week. And as always, audio is my usual issue, so let me know you can hear me. And we'll get started. And it looks like Bill was the first one in, or one of our fellow Escalers. Welcome in. You get the virtual cookie. And you actually reached out early to when I posted the reminders that we were having a live stream tonight. And James, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. Mom, welcome in. Told you I was going to have a show tonight. Welcome, Ken. Try not to breathe in that clear coat. Art, welcome. Hope you had a good time at the convention there in Canada. Yes, and happy birthday, Gopher Girl. There is, well, Gopher Girl likes ice cream cakes, so we combine it for an ice cream cake. Kill two birds with one stone. I haven't seen her say hello, so I don't know if she's logged in yet. She just got home from her birthday celebration and got some gifts earlier, and we're going to have cake after the show. John, welcome in. Oh, there's Gopher Girl. We're talking about you. So, okay. So, as many of you know, so the that as many of you saw the thumbnail, you're going to see more and more of those types of thumbnails and pictures from folks. They're distinctly, the colors are very distinct in those types of things, but those are um, it's a style that they seem to use that we see across the board. I know that James has used it as well, and they all seem to be similar. And that's our world of AI assisting us with many things, um, and that being one of them. But it really it captured my mood when I was working on the thumbnail, and we'll talk about this little guy in a second. But I have some rants tonight, and well, I really have kind of one rant and kind of just gonna explain what other projects I'm working on, and one of them is sort of based on ranting, but we'll get there. Let's see here. If you're in the chat, or if you're on the stream and you're in the background working or something, just say hi in the chat so we know you're in here. I appreciate all the hellos, and appreciate everybody who attends. And I know we have a strong start here, and we've had a few hellos, and there are a few more people out there I know as well. So just say hello and go back to what you're doing. In the meantime, so what have I been up to this week? Let's start with that. So I have been working on the coil car, and we talked about me trying to find the chain that I bought from A-Line that I couldn't find, and how there are plenty of places I could order it from for anywhere from $3.95 to $4.95, but then there's $8 or $9 for shipping, and I really didn't want to do that. The last time I got the chain, or the one that I got, I was actually visiting my mother in New Jersey, and we're about a half hour from Yankee Dabbler, so I just ordered it and went and picked it up and didn't have any shipping cost. So it made it worth it. It wasn't worth it to spend $8 or $9 on the item. I reached out in some of the Facebook groups, and a lot of people said you could find in Michael's or Hobby Lobby something very close or similar. So I did end up finding a chain that is going to work. It was this iron chain, and it was 1 millimeter is the link size, and that was the smallest. And when I went to look online, it seemed like the link size for HOS scale would be anywhere from 0.6 to 1.2. So I went and got the chain, and of course it's not darkened or anything. It's a silver chain. And I just put it, it was free standing in the package, so I put it on a spool. You can see part of it is actually, you may be able to see part of it actually is painted. So at first I have this ungodly large ungodly large lifetime +3 graphite powder bottle. So I thought maybe I could spread the well, you can't really see, it's just dark in there. Spread the graphite powder and then spray it to hold it on. But even it just wasn't sticking at all. So I scrapped that idea, and I just used a primer. I use Vallejo paints in my airbrush. So since I have black primer, I just went with the primer, and it it held, but as you touched the chain, it still came off. But then, so I did go ahead and seal it. And it hasn't come off as I've been working with it, because I had to cut down the chain a bit, as you can see on here. So the piece I made, I ended up cutting down, and then, you can see I have a problem here. If I can get this closed in, let's maybe fix some lighting here, or get some more lighting. Let's see if this one works as well. Then, so you can see I was able to fix the chain and get it through. I had to widen this hole a little bit, but I was able to get it on there, and I cut it kind of short, and it's not sticking to the side of the coupler pocket, even though I dumped a bunch of glue on there and Insecure, which, so that it didn't move. But all I would want to do is just something like that, just so that it looks like there's a chain on here, and then I'll paint that black. It's really, really short, so from a presentation for the AP, I want to make sure it's secure. If that little bit wasn't secure, not worried about it. This part is secure to the back. I secured it to the back of the wheel housing, and so it's good to go. Let's see, what else have we got? Who else have we got in here? We said hello to John. Let's see. Did you come home with anything, Art? Did you win anything in the silent auction? So okay. So what I also found out is through moving the parts back and forth and getting them off their sprues and everything, I'm missing a couple of the brake parts. So I have one printing right now. I found somebody who made them to scale. So this one didn't do so. At the bottom of it, I could do supports on this, and the bottom will probably do a little better. But of course, that's the part that's going to be glued. So not a big deal. And then there is one other part that's currently that I am going to print. I was printing. I'm checking to see. Let's see if on here. So I printed this with. It was designed for a 0.04 nozzle. And I tried to print it with a smaller nozzle twice just to see if I can get a finer detail to it. And I'm looking at the print now, and it's a second failed print. So it was really, all the settings were designed for that. And so I'll keep it as that. It'll look just fine. And then the one other part that I need to print, we're going to go ahead and do that while we're talking. We're just going to set it up for printing. And we're going to see, I may have to still change the nozzle back. There may be some issues with it. But let's see here. Let's go back here real quick. Just gonna set up something here to see what happens. All right. And then, sorry, I'm not gonna do that. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and print this one with supports, and we'll see what happens with that one later. Okay, and then finally, the final detail that I'm gonna do will be, well, two final things I'm gonna try to do. One is to add coupler cut levers. They're going to have to come out from a housing on the side here all the way out to the coupler, but I'll probably just do it out to the edge of this piece here, so it's not going to interfere with the coupler. You can see this part right here was added on. There were two, and one of them went flying, and I can't find it, so I just added a part to be similar enough with just some styrene there. And then I thought that maybe I'll put some kind of, there isn't really anything I could see with this system that would be kind of wires under the car or hosing or something, but something's got to come back essentially from the brake wheel to the brake system. So I was still thinking of at least doing some representation with either K&S wire or styrene. And then once those few details are finalized, then it's on to painting and decaling, and then we'll call it complete. And I'll ask my fellow MMRs in the division to do an evaluation on it. I will tell you that like the flat car, there really wasn't a spot, because I was thinking about it, but at the time I wasn't building these tranches with 3D printing. I was trying to build them with styrene, and was not doing so well. And so it kind of went by the wayside when I designed them in 3D to have a way to put weight in them. I have BBs. I don't think I would fit a lot in here. I actually filled this car up with the BBs and weighed it to get it to the NMRA standard. And it filled the whole thing. So I don't think I would fit them all, but I could add extra weight in there. The other thing that I was thinking about for weight was, and I don't have to use these specifically, but there are other ones out there that I can print. If I use as little infill as possible and I drill a hole in here, and there is one where I did that. And I made a mess of it, but I was putting BBs in, but there's some infill in here. So it was, so it wasn't really working as intended. If I can do it hollow, though, you can maybe see in there where the infill is, and then maybe I can get the BBs out. There's one. I think there are 3 in here. But what I did, it's not coils, but I found a use. I've been holding on to a bunch of these forever from medicine bottles. These are the desiccant things that you find in medicine bottles. I filled these up with with the BBs. They're going to go everywhere when I pull this open. But here are the BBs. So I'll just throw that one in there. And I was going to use these as like fans and do like an open load for fans and stuff, but I never did that. So I was testing it out where I was putting them kind of like opposite, and then I would have these on here, and it obviously doesn't look like coils. But it was a way to get weight, to be able to put like 4 of them in. It was a way to get weight in them. And it definitely added weight to it, but we'll figure something else out on that. And so let me put this in here for the moment. So that's where we got on the coil car. That's it. Yep. And was that all from the all from there, or were there any hobby shops in town that anybody went to during the convention? Wondering if there's an opportunity to visit a brick and mortar shop. I almost think that should be like, if we have an outing where there's a shop, we should have a specific, like a busload of model railroaders go to the shop. So let's see. So it's the brake detail, the rod, the weights. Yep. And so once I finish those few things, yep, I'll be excited to go on with the next step. Now, if I can find it, I wanted to show you if I still have it somewhere. So this is rubbed out, but this is, I got this at Scale Model Supply. It's an older bottle. The paint still works. But this is supposedly, let's see, that is the blue. I had a red somewhere here that was, so that's a Conrail blue and that's a Conrail blue. So I have 2 Conrail blues. I had let me see here. Let me see if I'm just seeing things. So, okay, so this is not, I was wrong. It was the lighting. This looks very dark on camera. And let's see here. But this is a very dark red, like a very dark burgundy brown kind of thing. And that's supposed to be the Conrail color that we'd be looking for the freight car. So of course I'll go seek additional. I did reach out a while ago, and that's how I ended up with this from Scale Model Supply. But I'll double check with folks in the Conrail world to see. But that's the color that we would be going for this car, for this coil car. And if I can figure out how to make myself do things here. Where is she? Let's see here. We're going to go to archive, freight cars, coil steel cars, G41A. Come on, load up. I should have like one always loaded here. What happened? G41A. Let's take a look here. So it's a grainy picture, but it'll do. Let me pull that up. And so obviously a lot this one is a lot more this one's a bit more brown looking than this is, but this is in a high sunlight photo. But that comes across really blurry on my other screen. So I apologize for that. Wonder if we do that. Anyway, so that will be the paint, and then I have the decals from K4 Decals for this. No, it's just all blurry, so we're gonna get that off the screen so I don't break all your eyes from that. So that was the actual modeling project that I worked on this week. Now, for a couple weeks, I've been working on some articles for the Fusey, which is the Thousand Lakes Region's newsletter. And outside of what just happened with the NMRA, I was already going to rant about something, and I'll talk about that in a bit, but I just wanted to address and rant a little bit for you folks about the perception of the NMRA. Darren, welcome in. Nice to see you in here. So we're gonna have to launder stuff through you, James, from Canada, and to get stuff in the US and vice versa. Oh, that was nice. That was nice to have that. That's awesome that they opened up and gave a discount. Hopefully they unloaded a bunch of stuff, and hopefully nobody in the US I got detained at the border for taking too much stuff home with them, or Canadian stuff in any way, So so going back to what if you're associated with the NMRA or view any of their social media, they used to have a marketing manager that was just a general marketing manager, and then new president, new board came in, and they actually were a group that was social media savvy, and they hired for the NMRA a social media manager. Her name is Lucy, and she's been with the NMRA for, I think it's 3 years now, or was with the NMRA for 3 years. And she just tendered her resignation. And I have tried to interact with her when she was newly on board. I did reach out to her. I had an idea that I wanted to run by her from a social media perspective, and I never got a response. So that was my initial interaction. associated with her. And my initial thoughts about her were, well, that was kind of sucky. I mean, she could have blown me off and um, said and just said thanks for the idea and then blown me off or whatever. But there was no response. I chalked it up. She's new. She's got her own agenda that she or the board's agenda that she has to fulfill, and I just left it as is. But maybe 2 years later, maybe a year later, she was on a podcast that was woven into the board of directors. They all know each other. They all met each other on that podcast. And the people on the podcast didn't treat Lucy well. They actually came out, the president came out, Gordy came out, and basically blasted the podcast and said he didn't really want to be associated. Now, I've never followed up to see if he remained associated, but essentially that board was filled with friends who all were connected through that podcast. So it was nice to see that he actually came out publicly blasting them at the time. Now, I don't know what's gone on in the years since. I don't know what happens at board meetings. I don't know what their interactions are. I don't know what's what was in Lucy's contract or any of that information. But she essentially resigned for mental health reasons. And she stated it was caused by NMRA members that didn't treat her well. And I have a feeling it wasn't just NMRA members, that it was probably former NMRA members, people who've had experiences and don't want to be members anymore, who are still friends with members. But it sounds like it was kind of an older crew that would essentially bully her on social media when she was trying to do her job. And I disagree with doing that. I don't necessarily, I also friended her on Facebook and got to see some of her personal views on things. And I didn't agree with her personal views on things. But she was doing a job and I didn't see any issues with that job. She was new to model railroading. And she and so she was learning model railroading as she was trying to build up the NMRA's social media presence. So she was just doing her job. And so I disagree with any of that treatment that she got. But there's some fallout from that. There are a couple things on her end. I'm a little bit old school. I think that you handle things professionally and internally, and you don't bring the public into it. I'm not of the newer generation that does everything publicly and everything on social media, including airing grievances. So she, along with telling people she resigned and sent her resignation in, she shared the NMRA's letter to her responding to her resignation. And she complained about it, not really having a heart, not connecting with her, which probably from the sound of how she said it in her posts had to do with probably some of the treatment or lack of support after that initial support that they gave her. Again, stuff that I have no idea that happened, but she blasted the letter. And if you look at the letter, and she put it out there for everybody, if you look at the letter, it's a basically standard HR letter that said you've got to turn in your credentials. They asked her, it doesn't sound like she has an NDA when she breaks the contract by resigning, but they asked her in the letter, they asked her to not be disparaging towards the NMRA in her future as she does things outside of no specific NDA or anything like that. She obviously can say what she wants, and she can put her feelings out there and everything. And so I'm thinking about it, and I'm trying to deal with the fact that it's going to be a more public thing, and things are made public that way, to influence opinion, to just be mad at somebody or be happy at somebody, whatever it is. That's a little bit different than I'm used to. Okay, so she does that, but the letter itself was non-feeling. There weren't feelings in there. There were I mean, I will say that I had to release somebody from their position recently, as a manager, a people manager, and um, in the process, they actually resigned, and I had to do the release stuff and the HR stuff and all that. And I was able to say, we generally keep opinion out of it. I humanized it a little bit, my response a little bit, by saying, hey, I'm sorry that things didn't work out, but that's kind of just a cordial thing. It's not any deep feeling. It's not any opinion or anything like that. It's very, very HR approved kind of speak. And the rest of it is, you have to return your equipment. If you have equipment, you have to return any security items. If you have security items, all of that, that's all above board, as they say, as HR stuff. So I felt a little bit like she was lashing out from her experience. And she may have had the experience of not being supported by the board at some point, and decided to lash out in this way. Didn't find anything wrong with that letter. It was appropriate. And that being said, you then have all the public comments, the people throwing out there, and they were throwing shade at the NMRA when these are individual people, and they could be people associated with the NMRA. They could be NMRA members. There's definitely the age demographic is what it is with the NMRA. It is older. That being said, not everybody is a curmudgeon. And so it only takes a few to ruin a good thing. And I think that's what's happening. I think we, as the NMRA, who believe in the NMRA and what they're doing, need to champion the good things. And we need to acknowledge that there are people out there that are unhappy with the NMRA. But what the NMRA is trying to do is they're trying to survive and and they're trying to, they noted multiple years of decline in membership. And there are other modeling organizations like the NMRA who are going through the same thing. I've listened to the podcast. I've listened to the, if you know, the IPMS group. They're going through the same things, and they're trying what they can do to turn their membership around, and the amount of people aging out and not aging in to it. NMRA is going through that same thing. They have reported that membership has leveled off in the recent efforts. So meaning that we're not losing as many, we're retaining them. It doesn't mean that we're gaining them. So the NMRA has a plan that they've set out. Another thing that people complained about because it's change. But they're trying to change things because they're trying to increase membership and make the NMRA survive. And so with that comes change, and change is hard for people. And it doesn't matter what age you are, change is definitely hard for folks. But we need to be champions of change if we believe in the NMRA's survival, and for it to be and for it to grow. And so one of the early changes in the process was a branding change. And it got lots and lots of backlash and still does get backlash um, from people who like the old way or the way it was or didn't think anything was wrong with the NMRA. The problem is if the NMRA's membership is reducing every year, there's a problem. And so you try to make a change. So that's what the current administration is trying to do. They put a plan in place. They spent money on it to try and help, try and increase membership and make survival a thing. And that includes a branding change that we're all going through with our logos. That's the first thing that they've done. They've done some other things to update other programs like the Achievement Program. There are already updates that have started there. We've gotten all kinds of comments on new things that they put in to update and bring forward the AP program to a current world of modeling. But it is what it is. It's gonna be something that we just need champions, and we need to stop being negative, and we need to stop associating with negative people. I think, as cruel as it may be, I think we should make it so miserable for the people who don't like change that they want to go away so that we could focus on bringing people in. And yes, that will be a reduction in membership in the short term, but I think it'll help our long term. I think that our aging population brings everything and anything to the modeling world, and I want to learn from all of them, but I don't want to sit there and have them complain and badmouth the NMRA, who's trying to just survive. So there you go. There was my rant about. So there was rant on both sides of that with Lucy. So I know a lot of people have met her. And a lot of people like her, and I'm sure she did. I didn't have any problems. Hey, Bob, welcome in. I had no problems with her efforts from a social media perspective. It's certainly the focus of the modeling in the social media was way different looking than prior to her being in there. So she certainly was trying to do her job. And I think it was doubly bad, people just treating her poorly for no good reason, but then it having to sorry, I lost my train of thought. That's what happens sometimes when you rant. But yes, Bob, there are people who are younger who don't want change too, though, that much less, because we get comfortable. There are lots of things I'm comfortable. Yeah, James, and that's the thing too. The NMRA doesn't exist in every area. Have you heard of IPMS? And wondering if there's a group in your area. IPMS is kind of like to me, it's more, I hear more about kit modeling, but they are, let's see here. And they're international, but they're all over the US. I know that. They're the International Plastic Modelers Society. They put on shows just like we do. They have judged or evaluated events just like the NMRA does. Really, really very much the same. And when you listen to leaders within IPMS, they will tell you they're having the same problems that you hear the NMRA are having. Getting kids into modeling, getting young folks into modeling, dealing with the introduction of 3D printing into modeling. It's another thing that it gets talked about the same way by both groups. Modelers who are aging and like things done a certain way and done their way hear that kind of complaint all the time the same. So so this is not unique to and I'm sure it's not unique to any specific organization. I think with any organization that's a membership organization, there you have ties to when you started in it. You were probably, when you start in an organization like this, you're probably most active at that time. And then you start to age and you start to have your own group of friends and acquaintances in those groups, in those organizations, and you tend to like the way things were done when changes come up. And we as humans just don't love change, and it's just a thing. So Bob, you're on some border somewhere where you're technically part of a local NMRA chapter and region. So just based on where you are. Yep. I was just listening to a podcast. And they were talking about Gundam models and how different they are, and how you know. So, James, I've struggled. One of the things I struggle with the NMRA, since I've been a member and before I was a member, was trying to understand why I pay a membership fee and then I have to pay for additional things. And it is the structure of the NMRA to focus on standards and really focusing now in the modern times on community. And then it's up to the community to support itself. It has some support of the regions and it has some support of the local chapters. But I have a little problem with that every once in a while, with shelling out that money. But if I think about it, and it depends on if you read the NMRA magazine or their turntable or any of the couple publications that they have, you could chalk it up, if you want to help rationalize it for yourself. You could chalk it up to you're paying for magazines and other digital digital media. So yes, I've had my issues with it. I have my issues, I'm sure you heard some tone about the board being a clique in itself. I feel that way because I started early on with the podcast that they were all associated with, or not all, many were associated with. I was a listener to that podcast. I got into the Facebook groups and the social part of that, but I didn't pay for it. And if you paid, you got to be part of this Wednesday night. I think it was a Wednesday night stream where everybody got together and for the evening and everything. And it was a weekly thing, and you made friends, and and as they did, and all of that. And then as I kind of listened to the podcast and its content, I started to get a little bit alienated by it. There was a lot of push for money, and being a member and getting member benefits and all of that. And so I sort of separated myself from that, because outside of the NMRA, spending on the NMRA membership and NMRA events on the local and regional level, I tend not to spend my hobby money on non-hobby stuff like this stuff. Um, we have the National Narrow Gauge Convention this year in the Twin Cities. It's extremely expensive for me. It's not extremely expensive for everybody, but I think for the week it was $135. I can't afford that. And even if I saved up for it, I think of all the supplies I could buy to build these cars, and I'm not as motivated to do that. I'd rather pay the $5 or $10 for our local chapter, our local divisions skills day, and learn skills from my um, fellow division members. That's a better, I'll spend that money. But as much as there is that you get for that $135, still extremely expensive. Um, the um, the costs are unavoidable for the regional conventions, but you have entrance to the convention, and if you want to go to the banquet, um, it costs you basically more usually for the banquet than the cost of getting in, and that's really expensive. And so I've been to one every other year instead of every year. So um, yeah, there are always going to be people who don't like change. So yeah, and so John, it's about um, doing things to promote to them and to draw them in. One of the things many years ago, before I became a member of the NMRA, that I complained about when we had um, um, train shows in the Twin Cities is there would be a table for the NMRA. And I would remember each year they would have two people sitting there talking to each other, and they'd have a video playing on a TV, a small TV at the table. That's it. That's all they had. So if you wanted to learn about the NMRA, you had to walk up to them and engage them in conversation, get them out of their conversation with each other. When I became a member, my proposal was that we should have volunteers walking around and offering collateral to people to say, "Have you heard about the NMRA? Is there anything I can help you, understand? Here's some information about the NMRA. Come visit us over here if you're interested in learning more about it." Something like that. So I didn't see that, and I didn't have a good view of them because I walked by them many times right by the tables in those days, and they would not engage. They were engaged with each other, and that was a turnoff at the time. It took um, it took social media, and it took some conversation with some folks to convince me that it was a good idea to join, and I'm happy I did. You know, there's lots of information out there. I could learn the hobby without the NMRA, but I'm sure glad that in order for me to buy things and have a model railroad that works correctly, I think the standards are a good thing to have. And manufacturers are definitely, whether they're not required to follow them, but they do, and we all have better running equipment, and we all enjoy the hobby that much more. Awesome, awesome. So, are there going to be a lot of YouTube model railroaders there, John, at the convention besides M&M rails? I love when he pull. I don't bring my dog into the train room, so into the workroom, so or my dog, so you guys don't get to see them, but you see them in pictures. But he always brings his dog on, so. So, so Ken, it's not that I have a detail or two confused. It's the access to what my experience are. I'm talking all from my experiences. And that's why when I talk about, for instance, Lucy, I only have so many experiences with her and what's been out there. Um, and my experiences with the podcast that I talked about. So, um, you know, and it's, it's certainly formed my opinions about it and all of that. So, right, and I got off on a tangent, Ken. So, what we do now, we have some very active members who have built modules, and I had also said to them that I'd be willing to decorate a module and bring it along to the shows around the area. But I need somebody to build it for me, the bench work, and then I'll build it so we could build even bigger one for operations. But we are engaging people now, um, and at the shows much more actively than we have in the past, and we put a throttle in kids' hands and people's hands, adults' hands, and say run a train and get them interested that way. And we have all kinds of collateral. I've seen 4 guys at a time over there talking to people and not just talking to each other. So we are in a much better place. And I was going to mention that. So Ken, thanks for checking me on that, because I actually like what we're doing. And like I said, if I can get somebody to build one of those modules, I'll be happy to decorate it and stuff. I love doing scenery, so happy to help out and happy to do what I can for us to survive and to thrive. So. So Bill, you're in Philly. So are you closest is, the group that's in South Jersey, and I know there's one in North Jersey, and I know even where my mom lives right across the border, um, from my aunt from Philly, and so I know even when I look for um um when I look for events with the local um New Jersey chapters, it's still a drive for even the one that covers the bottom half of New Jersey. I do want to check out the Potomac division. I have been um, online friends with a couple of them for many years, and there's just usually when I go out to visit my family in New Jersey, it's usually during the summer, and there's just no model railroading. But Bill, maybe when I'm out next time visiting my family, maybe we could, you know, hang out and do the model railroad thing, and maybe you could show me some of that S scale stuff you guys talk about all the time. So yeah, I was doing. Hey, Ken, um, I was doing the old. We don't have to mention them type of thing, but you're correct. It was the modeler's life. There were a lot of positive things, and I'm sure that I would have liked if I could afford to be part of that group from a payment standpoint. I'm sure I would have loved those Wednesday night chats and things like that, and connecting with folks. Um, Again, not bad people on there or anything like that. I think there's a lot of good that the podcast did bring, but it wasn't overall my cup of tea, and so I've moved away from it. There's so much other content like the Crossing Gate podcast, where we can all listen to that from our local members who have the NMRA interests at heart. So, um, you know, um, yeah. So to lead in from that to my next rant, it's truly not, I'm not going to rant here, but I will tell you that the article I was going to make my primer, I'm not making a primer out of it. I'm going to do a separate article. And it's more like going to be more like an op-ed probably. But the other thing that the question everybody wants to ask on every podcast, in every article, in every conversation is the hobby dying? Again, also asked for with IPMS folks and other organizations just like it. And I'm just so sick of it because it has negative connotations. It gets people talking about the negative and not the positive. So I've written an article, and it's in post-production, I guess you would say, to answer that question with some factual information. I actually went out and looked at some industry studies, and so I wanted to make sure I had something factual besides stop, having me complaining about people complaining. The industry, from a retail perspective, is doing fantastically well and growing. And I don't see any shortage of first of all, the pandemic actually seems to have helped the hobby thrive. And any hobby, people were sitting at home. They didn't want to look at their family members. They wanted to do something, so they did their hobbies. They got back into their hobbies with a very strong community of online retailers. It was able to thrive, and now, yes, brick and mortar has suffered, and that's the piece that people are curmudgeony about, because so many stores have closed and they're not getting that same experience. But again, it's change. So the hobby is changing and has changed and is thriving from a retail standpoint, just not in brick and mortar stores. So I have an article coming out in the Fusey for that. And then I also, so that was I called it my rant number 2-ish. And my rant number 3-ish is my actual primer article. I hinted at this in one of the Facebook posts, but it's going to be about glue. I'm sure everybody's excited about that as much as they love sitting there watching glue dry. One of my pet peeves about every single kit ever, every conversation out there, when somebody is doing a presentation and a clinic, they say, let the glue dry. Well, how long? What glue? Those sorts of questions. I can never find how, and I'm an impatient person, so I'm always jumping in and trying to move on from another step where I need to use that part that was just glued for that next step. So, for instance, the trouble I had with gluing this, I wanted to move on. And if I'm messing around with the rest of the car, I can knock that off because I didn't let it dry. So I put together, did a lot of research on figuring out as close as possible gluing times by types of glue. Using examples in the industry in their category. So, for instance, CA glues. There's 1,000 CA glues out there, but I picked a couple, went out, checked out with the manufacturers, and so I'm hoping the chart I put together that's going to describe the glues, what they're good for, and then the drying times. I hope it's going to be something that our members could use for generations to come, as they say. It's not going to be all inclusive because there are glues that I've never used that I don't know about that other people know about. And I hope it sparks conversation and people add to that, maybe. But that'll be the model railroad primer. So I have 2 articles coming out. So that's why I haven't done a whole lot of actual modeling, was because I've been spending time when I'm not at my day job and on a computer trying to write up those articles, do the research and everything. And those have taken a lot to do, and luckily still have till the end of the month to get them proofed and done and everything, but I'm close. And so that was my third rant. So we had the Lucy incident. We have the hobby is dying, and nobody knows how long for a glue to dry. And then the good thing though is, since it is Gopher Girl's birthday, after this live stream, we're gonna have some cake, and it's ice cream cake. And Mom, it's actually Carvel ice cream cake. I mentioned to you that our local food store has Carvel cakes, and so I wanted to make sure I got one this time around. I've gotten some from different places every year, but it's going to be Carvel cake this year, so a little bit back to the old days with that. Yep, Bob. Boxcar Jerry is. I've tried to connect with him a couple times, and we haven't been able to connect when I've been out there. But I'll keep trying. But yes, he's out there. Yeah, yeah, that's true, Ken. They'll make their own, and the best we can do is we can put ourselves out there and say, here's what the facts show, and you can believe it or not, but we don't need that negativity around. Gopher Girl, you definitely don't like change. So, Bob, my articles are published in the Fusey, which is the regional newsletter for the Thousand Lakes region of the NMRA. I haven't really published anywhere else. I have one with the national, but I haven't gotten the pictures. They want pictures, even though mine was really about membership, my article. And so we'll have to get some pictures for that eventually. But I haven't published anywhere else. I don't know that my articles are long enough or have the right kind of material all the time. My primer articles are all designed to be surface articles. They're not deep dives. So it's to get you interested in talking about it and maybe trying it. For instance, I did a primer article on 3D printing where it was just all introductory. 3D printers, or there are two types of 3D printers that we know that people in the hobby have, and one's filament and the other one is resin, and those sorts of discussions. This is probably the deepest I've researched for an article, but so yeah. So hey, James, the bucket hat thing. I've had my stores. I don't promote my stores. I don't know why. I probably should. They're out there. They're on a lot. They're kind of on my default descriptions for my videos, but I don't think I'm have them default on here. But in the descriptions here. But I have a Teespring store. I think they're called Spring Store now, and I have one with Redbubble. Don't love the things that have come out of Redbubble too much. I like the Spring Store a little better. There are other ones out there. There are other stores out there. I don't promote it out there, but it's there, and I have a bucket hat set up with my logo on it and everything. It looks pretty cool, but I haven't bought it even for myself. Probably should. Enjoying the Bucket Hat Nation. We should start something with the Bucket Hat Nation. So, look, James, you know me. I think you and Bob, even if you're not in the NMRA, I think if you really wanted to see my article, I think I could share it with you. Don't tell anybody though. So do they just I haven't even looked out there, Ken, to know that if they just archive them out there. I know there's a number of regions and divisions where as if you can sign up through via email and get their emails and get those publications, things like that. So let's see here. Newsletter. Come on. Oh, so they have latest publication and archives. So we do have it out here. So let's go. Let's just show you guys. Let's first of all, well, duh, let's do this. Let's get the right place to go, and then I'll show you guys. So here, when you go out to the website, the Thousand Lakes Region website, and you click on newsletter, click on latest publication or the archives, and you can see them online. And Ken was in the latest one. Let's see here. Oh yeah, I did the hairspray method last one. I suppose I should know which one those are. Let's see. So, and it's always under features in the contents page. But usually my articles are usually 5 to 10 pages long. Try to get photos in. As you can see, everybody tries to get photos in here. Nobody just wants to. But here is the article that you can read on the hairspray technique that I used for this kit. And the kit you've seen me work on, it's not done yet because I've actually gotten back to the AP stuff. But you can see all the stuff I used and the technique and the results on there in the article. So, yeah. So there you go. So, and this brings up an interesting point that I had a while back too. Going back to rants, one of the things that I gave feedback on when they were talking about raising the prices, raising the membership fee, and talking about digital versus the cost of print publications for the NMRA magazine. I brought up the point where I liked the videos that they had behind the paywall. We went through the pandemic. There was the idea that came up for NMRAX, and now the NMRA videos that are produced, all the monthly NMRAX videos that continue, all of those things are on their YouTube channel, so they're free to everybody. But I made the point where there's some content I want exclusively because I pay. It's not, to me, it's community, it's the standards, and then I think there should be some benefits behind the paywall. And I talked to folks in our division about some of the things that we were doing where we weren't showing value to our members, where we had events where now they weren't expensive for most people, but we were charged, members and public were charged the same price for things. And I said, that's not really fair to the members who have dedicated their finances to and their participation in. They should have some benefit over public members or public people coming to events. And so there was a slight change in some of the events having a lower cost for members. And what, in our division, all we want to do in our division events is to cover expenses. We don't go after profit. We have a way to sustain ourselves. We're very healthy in that sense. So all we want to do is cover our expenses. And if we can do that by lowering the cost and still lower the cost for members, I think that should happen. I also still think there should be some behind the paywall stuff. And there are discounts to some museums and other things, and then retail discounts where we have a growing number of retail discounts in which you can actually make back your money on the savings that you get from being an NMRA member. So there are ways you can swing all that. And I still think there should be some exclusive benefits. One of those is a connection with specifically NMRA members. Now, you can happen to meet them outside of that at some event that's public, but this ensures that you have that opportunity. So anyway, so you can check out that. And yes, I can send anybody the articles I work on after I'm done. I can send them a copy if needed, but they're all out there for you. And I would check out, even if you're just like here, if you're a non-member, I would still check out other divisions and regions, which you can find for free on the NMRA website. You don't have to be a member to find those. And you can connect with them. Most of them are on, I guess, I wouldn't say most of them, but a lot of them are on Facebook or have their own websites, and you can sign up to get their emails with their links to their publications. And there's tons of great stuff out there. The Lone Star region has a division out in Texas that has a monthly meeting that they put on, and it's a decently well attended meeting, and their technology is really good, so their meetings are covered well on YouTube, and I enjoy watching those. So Gopher Girl, have you had Carvel? It's pretty good stuff. So you knocked that $18 off that you saved at My Mount Models for with the NMRA discount. You knock that off your $62, and then you knock another one off, and before you know it, you've paid for your membership. There's a group called, is it Grouper? Is that the name of the group? I could look it up. That those that are, is it 65 and older? There are a ton, they can actually get their membership paid for. And then there are other benefits from Grouper. I think they get more than just the membership. It started out with just the membership cost. Now they're started out with just the membership cost the first year, and now it's over $100, I think, that you can get from this group if you qualify. And so it'll pay your membership, and then it can pay for other things. Let's say you want to go to a local event. The local event costs $10. If you're getting $100 back and you paid $62 into the NMRA, then you now have, $38 to play with. Well, that just covered your entrance fee to the local event and stuff. So there are benefits out there for all the detractors. There are benefits. You got to get with the right people. The people you jive with, those are the people you got to spend your time with in the NMRA, and the NMRA is going to be brilliant to you. I challenge anybody who's had a bad experience, and we're going to have people who've had bad experiences and it's so sour they're not going to come back. Those aren't our target. But if they want to come back and try again, I'm going to certainly be one of those people who's going to be inviting and say, we have a good time. We do things for the hobby. We do things for ourselves. We learn from each other. We get together. During the summer months, we don't have meetings in our division. We have picnics so that people who want to get together for picnics can do that and be social. It's Bill, it's funny, sidebar on that. My aunt, her house, when they get cable, they get all Philadelphia stations. But when she has cable, they're all Philadelphia stations. They used to have the good old time rabbit ears on a 13-inch TV in their kitchen. That would pick up the signal from New York. While they're in South Jersey, they're kind of right at that border, right just below that border of where in Central Jersey, where it switches over from New York stuff to Philadelphia stuff. But they're literally over the bridge, basically, from Pennsylvania. I have a friend that lives right over the border, and you would think to go from state to state, it would take so long. It takes no time at all. It takes 10 minutes, 20 minutes to go over the bridge and hang out with my friend. And Bill, I can't remember this, and I don't know if my mom remembers the name, but we found a hobby shop that was about 40 minutes away. So just west of Philadelphia. And we drove up there, and they had a website and they had the hours on there, and they didn't have any other indication, but we got there and there was a handwritten sign on the door. Sorry, we're away for vacation for the next 2 weeks or next week or whatever. So we missed out on that while I was there, but we found a fantastic deli that we ate lunch at, and then we went home. It wasn't a bad ride at all. It was about the same distance from my mom's house to Yankee Dabbler. Yankee Dabbler was maybe a little closer from a distance perspective, but I just remember going out straight west from when we went over the border there. So yeah, it was very localized back then, Bob. So we used to have a Carvel store in a strip mall right by our house. And we used to stop, like we would go to the movies or something as a family, my brother and myself and my mom and dad, and we would stop there. My mom would always get us the sandwiches, and I would always insist on chocolate, so we had to get like a combo of chocolate and vanilla. And I never liked the cookie part of it, which is shocking that I didn't, but I never liked the cookie part of it. And so I only liked the ice cream, but the ice cream was very good. So, oh no, there are other scalers out there, Bill. I don't know if you've checked out New Tracks Modeling, but there's a guy named Jamie who's an S-scale modeler and very involved in that in the group that kind of I don't know if they govern S-scale or whatever, but he presents on there all the time. And I see stuff, and there's nothing. I mean, it's just another scale. It's more, you see a little more detail than HO scale and a little less than O scale and so on. And so I don't think there's any mystery to it. And so I'm sure at some point I'll try it, because I sure can't even see HO scale anymore. So that may be what's up next for me. But with that, I just want to just play a quick thank you to my most recent contributors. I've started to include links to, because I'm not monetized on YouTube. So we don't have any smooth connections there, but we do have PayPal and we do have Venmo, and I put those in the description. And I'll throw a QR code up here, but I do want to play for folks just a thank you to folks who've recently given to the channel to keep my rants going and my modeling going, and hopefully a good time for all. So let me go play that, and I'll be back with you shortly. All right. So if you're interested, here again, the links are in the chat, but there's also a QR code if you're interested. And I understand if this frustrates you. I'm not good at this part of the whole thing, but if you are interested in giving please go ahead and check out that QR code. And then okay. So S-scale certainly doesn't stand for secret, Ken. Although I didn't know about it until I met you, though. So maybe. So yeah. So he's an interesting guy, and I like I'm jealous of what he as he works for a school. He has some access to some machinery that I'm jealous of. Have a good night, James. Thanks for being in here. So Bob, you can. I put it in the chat. But you can go to the Thousand Lakes region Fusey page. Let me see if I can show that to you. And then and it's in the chat if you want to click from there, but or just go to the thousandlakesregion.org and click on newsletter, and there's a link to the current issue and then a link to past issues. And I've been doing it for, I don't know if it's been a full year that I've been doing it. So 4 issues. So there might be 4 or 5 issues in there with my primer articles. And then the next one will be released in July. We have a June 30th deadline for those articles. But you'll be able to find them there. And then look, if you can't find them, reach out to me. I can get you to them. So with that, and me throwing out there and, my request for some help, I'm going to leave it there. I've ranted enough. It's time for some cake, and it's time to finish out celebrating my my wife's birthday, and I think we figured out it was something like the 19th occurrence of her 29th birthday, since you don't ever age past 29. So anyway, happy birthday, Gopher Girl. Have a great weekend, everybody, and remember to just jump in. Have a great night.